Here we are with the last project of the semester. I'm most proud of creating a project was number 3 though. Since I picked a music video for my piece of media, I really wanted to use a visual component for my project, and I never used iMovie before, so I was really proud of how that turned out. I can see themes of gender representation throughout my work this semester, probably because of my background in women and sexuality studies. I was able to set a good routine for my weekly readings and found this was my best semester as far as completing my readings. I have a challenging time doing readings and focusing while in my house sometimes, which made online schooling more challenging, but I found that leaving my house helped me when setting aside times for the readings. I really gained a sense of community from the forum posts. Unlike a traditional classroom setting, the forums allow you more of an insight of what your classmates are thinking. I gained more insight from reading the forum posts than I would have by listening to students raising their hands during a shared classroom time. I really found advertising really interesting this semester. I really enjoyed the show Mad Men and found it fascinating how much goes on even behind a 15-second commercial. Even for an ad for dish soaps has a story to tell and reinforces values in American society. I will remember the layers behind what seems like a simple commercial and how one commercial can further a narrative that is just common by telling that story over and over again. More common images like with heteronormativity can be reinforced through everyday commercials. This results in less common depictions of otherness. Pop culture has historically dealt with otherness by reflecting on the values of society at the current moment. Messages about women in pop culture have changed from the stories of women staying at home and caring for children to that of women having careers. Race has had the most dramatic change in pop culture. The first black people to appear in pop culture were not even allowed to be black, but white people playing the parts of black people. Fast forward to the present day, where we see more stories of black representation. The representation still is currently lacking, and we can see more black people, but they're still underrepresented in the roles they have. As of today, our representation of otherness is still lacking in pop culture. Representation is important in pop culture because of the power of a single story. Messages are constantly sent through signs and symbols in pop culture, through stories, and when you don't tell certain people's stories, there tends to be little to no knowledge of those experiences. A good example is the lack of otherness in pop culture. If stories of trans women are not represented in pop culture, it can limit our knowledge of trans issues and affect how we address these issues. Social media has contributed to representation by giving a platform for those to unite in power and convey a message and tell stories that not get told. Since pop culture is a series of stories being told, there are more common patterns you will see in American pop culture. The duality myth is based on the thematic paradigm by Robert Ray. American films have long depicted fundamental patterns and contradictions about our society's myths and values. Hero characters fall into similar pattern. The two most common are the outlaw hero, often seen as a cowboy type. The other is the official hero that plays more by the books. Ray explains that most characters are a combination of both. This suggests that we are complicated and complex within our value system. The popularity of a character like Dexter, who is a serial killer, would not be the same if he were killing with a purpose. He only kills serial killers. On one hand, we have ideals taking matters into our own hands, but we also must function within this society. We want to stand out and fit in American culture. This impacts me most through advertising, as extremely hard to avoid due to the increasing amount of technological presence in our lives. Pop culture impacts my life by advertising and media exposure I consume daily. It is because of this daily consumption of pop culture and technology that I tend to be optimistic about the future of pop culture. The future will be moved forward to increased technology and allow the power of stories to be told from a larger scope. I think by nature, pop culture reflects our society and tells our stories, but the media in which it sends the message is constantly changing. Popular forms of media have shifted from the newspaper to the internet. It is important to understand the power of these sources and our relationship with them, how much power they control and have in our lives. The shift is happening towards participatory culture. We're in a moment of transition of the older media system being replaced by an intermediate media system. We are no longer just spectators, but a part of a larger mediascape, where average citizens have more control over media technology and tell their stories in new and powerful ways. Many stories have not changed over the years. They're just told in more diverse ways. The story that has the most impact at one point, maybe a time when the printing press was at its peak, can be different today due to the reach of the internet and its accessibility. The potential of participatory culture makes me feel optimistic about the future of pop culture. This goes back to representation in pop culture because it shifts the power back to us as individuals. We can help have more representation of otherness in pop culture by participating in more in this relationship with technology. Thank you for joining me today. I had such a good time this semester, and I look forward to taking many more American Studies classes to come.